Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. I just spent 2 hours recording this video. When I went back to check the recording in my camera roll, it was not there. But it was recording. As you can see, my soul has just left my entire body. I'm so dead inside. I would like someone to try me today. Today's the day. I got the time today. I just finished some quarter. I finished the finals. I may have failed my finals, but guess what? It doesn't matter because the average is probably an F. I think my video deleting has something to do with Apple iPhones crashing after a couple years, and guess who's gonna fix it? People who are in STEM, computer science, and engineering majors. And guess what? Who the fudge is supposed to fix my iPhone and make sure my video doesn't delete if they can't get into those majors? As you can see, the look I have going on right now is the sleep-deprived, super stressed, and mentally exhausted aesthetic. If you'd like to try it out, just be a college student at UW. Anyway, the point of today's video is to talk about the different majors at the University of Washington and how easy or difficult it is to get into them.
They ask you how you are, you just have to say that you're fine when you're not really fine, but you just can't get into it because they would never understand.
My camera did the same thing again. It literally stopped halfway through the second attempt at this video. Okay, third time's a charm. Oh my gosh. I don't know if I can do it anymore after this. Do you see how defeated I look? This is awful. First, I'm going to start off with the physics and astronomy majors, which I am in. Therefore, I think I can offer some pretty good perspective on it. Basically, the physics and astronomy major application is very similar. You just have to complete the physics prereqs, which is 121, 122, and 123. And for math, you have to complete 124, 125, 126, get a decent GPA in it, and you should be good to go. You also have to write a personal statement, and the prompts for each major are very similar. I literally used the same essay for both, just changed a few words and did some other editing. Physics says it's capacity constrained now, but honestly it's not competitive at all because who the fudge wants to major in physics? Next, I'm going to be talking about the education major. I've literally smiled so much for literally 3 hours, I don't think I can do it anymore. My face hurts. For the education major, you need to complete 45 credits at UW or have prior transfer coursework. You also need to get a 2.5 cumulative GPA. There's also some admission essay questions, but they're really short. It's like 3 prompts and 250 words or less. It used to be an open major. I am not sure if it is or not now, but regardless, it's not super difficult to get into in comparison to the other majors. Next, I'm going to be talking about the business major. This person said business was quite hard. You have to have really good grades, at least a 3.5 cumulative GPA in the business prereqs, and then from general UW. You also have to write personal statements and do a writing assessment, which is hard. For my cohort of applicants, there was a 20% chance in getting in, but with business, you can apply directly to the major when you apply to UW, and then you don't have to do any of it. Next, I'm going to be talking about the biology major. One person wrote that it's super easy. As long as you have good grades above a 2.5 and have taken the required classes, you are in. They're pretty flexible too. If you don't meet one of the requirements, just talk to an advisor. Usually they have something they can do for you. They have lots of space in the program. The application process is just a whole bunch of questions, and I don't remember much, but I do remember that they asked us why you want to get in, when and what you want to do with the degree. I remember not being super stressed about it, and it's pretty low pressure. Another person wrote to do all the STEM prereqs, which I say are a lot of weed out classes that if you get through them, it's a straight shot to the major. Bio is one of the largest departments at UW, so do the work and you'll get in. The application was a questionnaire, some paragraph essay questions, and that's it. Not as intense as the application to get into UW. Another person said that the application process was really easy. You just answer, I think, about 2 essay prompts, about 500 words max or something like that, and then turn in your transcript. I think as long as your grades are decent and your intro bio courses as well, most people are able to get in. Next, I'm going to be talking about the communications major. One person said that it's fairly easy to get into. You have to pass 2 prerequisites and then write a couple of essays. It's competitive, but the prerequisites were pretty easy and nothing as bad as a lot of the STEM majors. Another person said communications is a bit more competitive and had to apply by writing a personal statement, but they got in their first try. And then lastly, from a bit of a different perspective, a transfer student said that she did an internship and her communication prereqs at a community college, so that when she got into UW, she applied to the major and got in pretty easily. Having a communication internship really makes your application strong because it shows how your interests line up with the major. However, I know that people who go to UW right after high school have a hard time getting into communications and that it's competitive to even get into the prerequisite classes. It doesn't help that acceptance rates acceptance rates keep going down each year. With all that being said, my best advice would be to 4.0 your prerequisites, have at least one internship to talk about, and be able to clearly explain why you specifically need to be in the comp major. That is great advice. Thank you so much. If you all have been following my channel for a while, you know I talk about Austin a lot, but he does go to UW, so he has some perspective from the two majors that he's in, which are real estate and architectural design. For real estate, he says it's easy to get into, it's a minimum requirement major. Take RE 250, intro to real estate, get at least a 3.0, and then you're in the major if you want. As for architectural design, it is very difficult to get into. The prereqs are super hard, some of the most intense classes at UW. You apply with a portfolio of architectural work, and there's a 40% acceptance rate even after completing those prereqs. If you don't get in, at least you've already completed the architecture minor. There's only one cycle per year, and acceptance rate for reapplicants is extremely low. As little as one reapplicant gets in per year. Next, I'm going to be talking about the public and global health majors. This person says, I say it's in the middle. Acceptance rate is less than 50%, but it's all about whether you get the right prerequisites done and with high grades. For me, I was in that boat, so my counselor told me I should be a sure shot to get in. So compared to the CS or neuroscience major, I'd say it's easier because there are less people with outstanding grades going for the same spots. As for the application, along with filling the prerequisites, there were 2 or 3 prompt responses, 200 words each. They were about the field, what you want to do in it, and why you chose it. Pretty straightforward and broad, so you could take many approaches to it. Next are the speech and hearing sciences majors, and this person said there were some prereqs required before applying, about 5 I think. The application was an online form. You tell them your grades in the prereq classes, and then there's an essay about why you want to be in the major. So pretty straightforward. Next is the psychology major. This person already graduated, but said that when she applied, it was pretty easy. All they had to do for the app was enter the grades for the 3 core psych classes, so Psych 101, 202, and 209, and then submit the transcript. Psych is a relatively big major at UW and is considered competitive, but not sure how much has changed in the last 4 years. Another person who's actually in my grade, so currently in the psych major, said that she thinks the acceptance rate is around a 40 to 50%. She does know it's capacity constrained. The application process is an essay, and you have to have an average GPA in all the psych classes of about a 2.5, she thinks, and a 2.0 overall GPA. It's pretty simple. I believe the average GPA of the psych classes are the thing that they look for most in your application. Next is the Near Eastern Languages and Civilizations major. This person says it's an open major. They walked into the office and said, this is what I want to major in, and they said, great. Pretty sure there was some very minor admin stuff we had to do, but that was about it. Open majors. That must be nice. Next is philosophy and ethics, and this person says it's open because it's so small, so the application process is doing the prereqs and having the GPA. Next is LSJ, in which you need essays and prereqs that you have to have a certain GPA on, and the prereq classes are super hard to get into. It took her 1.5 years to get into LSJ 200. That sucks. That's another thing with majors at UW, is that sometimes it's not even the major that's hard to get into, it's the classes, the prereqs you need to take in order to get into the major that are hard to get into. Next is the chemistry major, and everyone that responded that's in the chemistry major got in through direct admission. Essentially, all they had to do was write that they wanted to major in chemistry, and then they were already declared a chemistry major prior to their freshman year. There is so many things to talk about with direct admission at the University of Washington, which I will talk about near the end of this video. Next is the Biochem major. According to this person, there's 3 ways to get into it. There's direct admit out of high school, early admission during October, or regular admission during April. I applied for early admission and got in. According to the admission counselors, early admission is a little harder to get into than regular. This is because there's less classes that they can weigh you on, so you typically need to have a higher GPA as compensation to be competitive as opposed to regular admission. The application process was pretty simple. All I had to do was submit a 500-word personal statement following one of the prompts that were given to me. The Office of Admissions automatically pulled my transcript, so I didn't need to submit that. Personally, I thought getting into the early admission was pretty easy because he had done well in early admission prereq classes. He thinks another reason admissions prefer higher GPA for early applicants is because they haven't taken organic chemistry yet, which is the biggest / most dreaded prereq for regular applicants. So it's natural that regular applicants will have lower GPAs on average when they apply because of the OChem series. I heard that series sucks so bad. So if you have to do that, then good luck. Speaking of Good Luck Charlie, I felt like Teddy in that one episode where she thought she deleted all of those videos because her computer went in the dishwasher or something, and then she was like, oh, there's no point in filming anymore because all those are gone. That is exactly how I felt. Next is the biophysics major, and this is also coming from the perspective of someone who already graduated. She said it was easy. It was open major when she was in school. I don't think it is now. You just had to have the prereqs. They explained that it was easier to just let people apply and take the classes because the classes would actually read them out. So it was easier than trying to go through all the applications. That is so typical of flipping UW. Alrighty, buckle your seatbelts, everyone. We are getting into the juicy stuff now. Not to say that any of the majors are less interesting to talk about, but a lot of people have questions about the STEM majors at UW, specifically computer science and engineering. Let's take a look at some of our responses. Bioengineering, direct admission. Industrial engineering, direct admit. Getting into industrial wasn't as difficult. I finished up the prereqs to apply my freshman year and was able to apply and get in the summer between freshman and sophomore year. Material science and engineering. I was the first year to do the direct to college program, and I initially came in from high school into the College of Engineering as an engineering undeclared major student. My year got 3 waves or phases to apply for a specific major, and we basically had to take our regular prereqs plus additional prereqs of the department we were interested in. And then we would apply for as many majors as we want using one application, either end of spring, after our freshman year, end of winter our sophomore year, if you didn't apply / didn't get into a major the last phase, or end of spring our sophomore year. If you didn't get in by the 3rd time, you were out of the college. But this year I heard that they only get 1 try. Ooh, that's brutal. And it was stressful, especially knowing the weed outs were classes like physics, calc, and chem. I can't imagine how stressful it must be this time around because overall UW is making majors more competitive. That is facts. That's another thing about UW. A lot of people don't realize how difficult UW actually is. At least from my perspective as a Midwest student, no one knew what the University of Washington is, so they just assumed it was some easy school because if you look at the acceptance rate for the overall school, it's pretty high. But if you look at the acceptance rates for some of the majors, they're super low. So it's like, doesn't even matter if you get into UW. If you can't even get into the major you want to study, what is the point of going? Next is electrical engineering. This person said, I think as far as the different engineering programs go, EE is one of the easier ones to get into. He wasn't in engineering undeclared to start with, which made it harder, but was able to get in with a 3.4 to 3.5 GPA and had to write a couple essays. That's really impressive. He also said if you're a direct admit to the College of Engineering, you don't get into your specific major right away. Around sophomore year, you put your top 3 engineering choices and you're pretty much guaranteed to get into one. But since he was in pre-science, he had to apply directly to electrical engineering and skipped the engineering undeclared. Next person said he didn't think the application was too bad because he applied once and got in, but for some of the other majors he applied to, he applied a couple times and still didn't get in. And the application process was just essays and submitting my classes with the grades I got. And then I said, if you don't mind me asking, what other majors did you apply for? And he said CS and ACMS. Another person in electrical engineering wrote, it was easy for me because I was direct admit to the College of Engineering. It is very, very difficult if you're not already in the College of Engineering. I would highly not recommend going to UW if you want to do engineering and don't get direct admit. The application process was pretty standard where they ask for your transcript and a statement of why you want to be in that major. Ooh, tea. Another person said he got direct to college, so it was super easy. With DTC, you're guaranteed an engineering major. Then you request placement and rank your top 1 to 6 engineering majors. Electrical engineering was his first choice, and he got in. Next, I'm going to talk about the HCDE major. One person that responded that already graduated said, well, it's a little different from when I applied because I had to apply before DTC was a thing. So back then, there was a 15% admittance rate on average per admittance cycle. Oh my gosh. But it all really came down to the personal statement, which I'd still say is very true today. The main thing about the statement is A, making sure you showcase excellent storytelling skills, which is extremely important as a UX designer / researcher. B, clearly indicate that you know what HCDE really is and why you want to do it. And C, have a clear goal on what you plan to do once you have a degree in HCDE. Another response said, I would say it's pretty difficult since it's sadly one of the capacity-constrained majors. It's usually seen as a backup to majors like CS, CSE, and Info, so the acceptance rate is kind of low. Although for the past few years across most of the engineering majors, they have primarily been accepting direct-to-college students versus pre-science students. So there's kind of two paths to apply. There's a direct-to-college application where students will be placed into an engineering major based on the order in which they rank preference to each engineering major. This is how I applied, and it's still fairly competitive since you are applying with other engineering students that have similar grades, interests, and passions. Ooh. Finally, we are ending with the infamous computer science major. This person said, I was directly admitted as a freshman. I think I got a fairly well advantage as an in-state student, so my application process was just completing the UW Coalition application. In-state students, I have so much to talk about with them. Oh my gosh. Nothing against y'all, it's more about UW in general. Another person in CS said, it's difficult if you're not direct admit. I just chose it as my first option, and when I was admitted, it said computer science. I didn't know it was a hard process applying to majors until after. I think that's the way to go about it. Just don't acknowledge that it's difficult, and then you can only really succeed. Another person said, CS is pretty hard, and he didn't get in his first time. You pretty much need at least a 3.8 in every CS class and a 3.8 GPA. Oh my gosh. You need good extracurriculars and a great essay. The last response to computer science said, I went through the direct to major process, which is literally as simple as selecting computer science as your intended major on your freshman application. So the process is no harder than applying to UW. Specifically for direct to major, I've heard switching into computer science is much harder. That being said, admission rates are still quite low. If you're accepted to UW, in-state students have a 30% chance of also being admitted, and out-of-state has a 2.5% chance. So even though applying is easy, it can be hard to be accepted into computer science, so I recommend having any coding and robotics experience. So those were some of the responses I got. Big shout out to everyone who responded via Instagram. You made this video so much easier to make. Lastly, before I end this video, I do want to address direct admit and the prioritization of in-state students at the University of Washington. As you saw near the end of this video, with a lot of those really difficult STEM majors, a lot of them were direct admit. I know someone who was an in-state student that didn't apply to the direct admit for the College of Engineering and then couldn't get into his major twice. So my biggest recommendation is apply to direct admit if you can. Direct admit for sure prioritizes in-state students. The guy even said in his response. If you're an out-of-state student and you don't get direct admit into CS or any of the engineering majors, like someone said, you probably maybe want to consider going to UW just because it's so difficult to get into those majors when you have to do pre-science. It is not impossible though, as you saw in some of those responses. Some people made it work, and I guarantee if you're watching this video, you probably can too, because my supporters are super smart and they're amazing. Love you all. At the University of Washington, the majors are becoming more competitive and more capacity constrained. So I know that's really stressful, but if you all need any tips or any advice or any love, I got you. Just keep watching my videos and I'll be here for you. If the major you're interested in wasn't listed in this video, or you have more specific questions about any of the majors I mentioned, go ahead and leave that in the comment section down below, or DM me on Instagram, JessicaStarsInSpace_. Anyway, find a way to contact me. I'll be sure to respond, and I'll see you all in my next video. Bye.